Hello. How you doing, guys? If I have invited you to play Dungeons and Dragons and you have been very keen or at least interested to do so, this is the video I'm going to show you in case you're busy and we haven't got time to meet up. Here's a video that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a bunch of videos right now. The first video I'm going to cover is pretty much what is Dungeons and Dragons and why you should play it and why it's much more engaging than you think and why it's not outdated. It keeps being modern and refreshing. That's the first video I'm going to show you. The second video I'm going to show you is a run through all the races that you can play in this D&D and how interesting and cool and awesome they are. And thirdly, I am going to show you a video about the classes, which is personally my favourite thing in Dungeons and Dragons to talk about. So first off, I'm going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and sorry for the low video quality, but I'm just doing this on the fly, who cares? So what is Dungeons and Dragons? So you've probably watched a lot of movies, or you've probably watched a lot of TV shows, where Dungeons and Dragons is like a role-playing game in which you go save the princess from the goblin and the Goblin King. And the game ends when you smite the Goblin King and bring the princess back to the king. But it has actually become a lot more modern and a lot bit less traditional and a lot more refreshed lately. Dungeons and Dragons has evolved into be a role-playing game which pretty much anything is your everything is your sandbox, really. The Dungeon Master provides a world and is narrative in a story, but you as the player have a lot of area and a lot of flexibility to really live the story you want or guide in a certain direction. I'll be the Dungeon Master and I'm going to present a world and NPCs and villains and encounters and puzzles, but really it's up to you as a player and the rest of your players to do whatever you want. Stories have become a bit more interesting and complex. It's not just about saving princesses from goblins now. There are cool new monsters. Dragons have become a bit more intellectual and a bit more layered. You have villains that aren't really villains. They're villains, but think about one of the best villains of all time right now is Magneto. Why do we love Magneto so much? Because he's a villain with a purpose, and you're like, oh well, he's not just a douchebag. You can actually understand where he's coming from. And these are this is the modernization that is being brought into D&D today, and that's why I personally think that so many people can get jumped into it, because people love story. Most people love story. You're crazy if you don't like stories, and that's why I say, even though it's a fantasy setting and it seems nerdy and it does seem intimidating for starters, but anyone can get into it. It's a little bit of difficulty in getting that hump and going over that hump to understand the rules, but once you're there, it really can be one of the most engaging social activities you can ever do. So that's enough of my introduction. I'm just going to quickly go through how to play D&D, or pretty much what the basic mechanics are, because you're probably like, yeah, that's all well good, stories are fun, but how on earth do you play? So there really are two sections of gameplay in Dungeons and Dragons. First is your role-playing. There's really no mechanics to this, or little mechanics to this. The role-playing is literally just talking with the NPCs that the Dungeon Master presents to you. You could be the classic idea that you might have heard of is you're in a tavern and you're talking to the bartender and all that sort of jazz, and you're hearing about the gossip of the town. But once again, this game has become more modern and revisionized, I'm not sure if that's a word, but that's okay, to make it that you can have all sorts of interactions with all sorts of people, not just kings and princesses, but with sailor men, with all new half-dragon people, half-elven people, even villains and monsters themselves. You can have so many cool role-play situations with. In this game, you really can tell your Dungeon Master what you want to do, and as long as physically possible, you go to the second part of the game, which is dice rolling. So, as you can see, I have a dice here that has 20 numbers, 1 to 20. So this is probably one of the most common dice that you have to roll, and when you roll a die, it's pretty much in a situation where the Dungeon Master, myself, tells you to. Those situations can be, if you're trying to do something, then we have to see if you're going to succeed or fail. Because in this world, you can't just say, backflip off the ship into water and land safely. No, because that's kind of where the mechanics of the game come in. Is you actually roll to see if you succeed or fail. As a dungeon master, for example, I may say the difficulty class of doing a backflip into the water may be 15, depending on what character you are. If you're a more acrobatic person, maybe it's less. Who knows? And then you roll this 20-sided dice, and whatever you get, you add your bonuses, which we'll get into with races and classes, and pretty much that is the number you roll, and that determines whether you beat or fail 15. So that is a lot of what goes into the dice rolling. It also covers if you succeed at attacking someone, if you succeed at shooting someone with an arrow, if you succeed at pickpocketing someone, if you succeed in intimidating someone, if you succeed in wooing a girl or a man that you want to sleep with. These are all things that are completely possible within the realm of Dungeons & Dragons. But first, what you have to do is create a character. Once again, I know that seems like a very daunting task. So I'm going to end this video right here. Send me any questions that you may be confused about. But don't worry, we're going to cover it all either in later videos or in actual one-on-one human interaction time. But next I'm going to quickly go the races with you so you can sort of understand and get an idea of what sort of classes you want. Peace, ciao, sayonara, and I'll see you next video.